Hey everybody, it's Mick here from Climate Salad. We are having an event for founders here today, a webinar where we're going to be talking to the Pledge 1% team and hearing about all the great benefits of being a part of that. They have, we've known about them for years. They've really been active and doing great work in Australia at a really heightened level over the last year. And they've been big supporters of the climate tech industry through Climate Salad. So we thought we'd get them on, tell us a bit more about the program and what they do and answer any questions for our founders. It's being recorded so we can share it out to all the other founders afterwards, but we do have a really good mix of crew here today. A quick acknowledgement of country from me. Would like to pay our respects to our Indigenous First Nations friends and colleagues and any First Nations people here on the call today and acknowledge their elders past and present. I'm coming to you today from Camaragal or perhaps Gamaragal country, which we've spoken about already. And we always really acknowledge that in terms of climate technology, it would be remiss of us not to pay a lot of respect to those who were our first climate innovators and scientists and lived sustainably with the land for 60,000 years. Plenty to learn from our Indigenous and First Nations friends and colleagues. So, and again, I'm Mick Lebinskas. I'm the CEO of Climate Salad, and our whole goal is to help Australia build an incredibly strong and globally leading climate technology industry. We've made great progress. Next week is our 5 year anniversary. So 5 years doing this, and it's great to see the industry going from strength to strength and more great partnerships and programs launching. And one of them is Pledge 1%. We've got some of the team here today. We will have plenty of time for questions afterwards, but I'm going to pass over to Antonia, who's going to take us through a bit of content. Over to you, Antonia.
Thanks, Mick, and hello, everyone. I'd like to echo that beautiful acknowledgement of country there. I'm dialing in today from the lands of the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation in sunny South Sydney today. And hello, everyone. It's great to have you on the call. So I'm the Managing Director in Australia for Pledge 1%, and incredibly passionate about encouraging philanthropy and social impact across the tech sector. I also wear another hat as CEO of an organisation called Start Giving that works with successful tech founders to support their personal philanthropy. So anything to do with giving, whether it's corporate or philanthropy, that's kind of my bag. But today we're here specifically to talk about Pledge 1%. So I might just pull up a couple of slides whilst I'm talking. One moment, bear with me whilst I open up and share my screen. There we go. Can everyone see that okay? Quick thumbs up if you can. Thank you very much. So Pledge 1%, for those of you that don't know us, we're a global movement that exists to encourage any company of any size to use all of their assets to be a force for good. So it's a very simple framework encouraging companies to pledge a percentage of their staff time, product, profit and or equity for any causes of their choosing. And globally, we've had about 20,000 people that have signed the pledge around the world. And impressively, over 2,000 of them are right here in Australia. And that's partly because the footprint for Pledge 1% started right here in Australia. The movement was co-founded 11 years ago by Salesforce together with Atlassian. And Scott Farquhar today is the chair globally of Pledge 1%. So we have a global headquarters in San Francisco where the CEO is based. And I head up the team here. And I'm joined on the call today from Alice and Gisela, also from the Pledge 1% Australia team. So we're thrilled to all be here. So, I mean, obviously, as climate tech companies yourself, you're already doing an incredible amount for the world. That's the whole ethos and reason that you exist. And I can be certain that you're already contributing more than 1% simply through the company that you've founded to improving the world through whatever form of climate tech that is that you're leaning into. So where does Pledge 1% come in might be the question, but really what we're about is finding ways for you to use all of your assets to be a force for good. So that's beyond the product or whatever it is you're creating for your company. We're also really encouraging people to use all those other assets within your company to have a positive positive impact on the community. And we offer a very simple and flexible framework to enable you to do that. So there's 4 different aspects to the pledge that we encourage people to do. And the first of those is time. And time is by far the most popular pledge that the companies that we work with take up, and is often the first pledge that people lean into. So even if you're a company of just 1 or 2 people when you're starting out, there's still ways that you can use your time in a variety of different ways. And there's 2 main ways that we find companies sort of set up their volunteering programs. The first of those is to have sort of a very flexible or unstructured volunteer time program where you can allow any individual in your company to have some paid time off to volunteer for those charities or causes that they're really passionate about. Very easy to do, and we tend to find that in the climate tech space or any companies that are set up specifically for social purpose, it's highly likely that your staff have started working with you because they are passionate about the climate and the world in a whole range of different ways. And often by giving people that little bit of extra time that they can use to lean into those for-purpose activities that they're doing outside of work, it's really a way of sort of honouring, encouraging and supporting that broader social impact that they want to have. So a lot of companies, when they get formalised on their flexible volunteer time, will often give people a few days a year. Roughly 1% of a full-time employee is about 3 days per year. A lot of the bigger companies offer people up to 5 days per year that they can take off to get involved in volunteering. And the second part of it is structured volunteering activities. So that's often team-based volunteering days that have a whole load of other benefits of bringing your team together beyond perhaps just talking about product or strategy, but coming together socially at the same time of having a positive impact for the community. The biggest one in Australia by far, for example, is Clean Up Australia, where people can go, clean up Australia. Other ones include, going to help in a soup kitchen or packing things for a charity where they might be working with women fleeing domestic violence or mentoring young people. There's a whole range of different things you can do, and we see that happening across all sorts of different companies. So time, I would say just about everyone who signs up with Pledge 1% generally signs the time pledge as their first and the most commonly used pledge. So that's the first one. The second one is the product pledge. So obviously your product or your service is the core of what you do. And as climate tech, you're already having a huge impact on the world through the simple, the simple work that you're doing. But really thinking about the product pledge is thinking about other ways that you can use your product, whether that's particularly in software companies have donated and discounted their products and services for non-profits and charities. If you take Canva as an example, I mean, they're now sort of obviously a mega successful startup, but they've had a product pledge as part of Canva from very early on in the company where they give licenses, for example, to schools and non-profits. And now they've given away over $1 billion of product for free to charities and non-profits. And if you think about it, the important thing that we see there is that they were doing that right from the beginning. So probably if you came to Canva now and said, hey, give away $1 billion of your stuff for free, people would sort of say, well, that sounds like a lot. But if you can embed this stuff really early in your company, it just becomes part of your values, part of the way you operate and at the very core of what you do. So that's part of the whole Pledge 1% idea is think about making some sort of pledge early on so that it normalizes that activity in your company when it's a really small thing to do initially, but the impact of that can be huge as you grow and scale. And it doesn't have to be just donating product or service. It can also be working with non-profits to take whatever it is that you do and customize it in some way, or perhaps even partnering with a non-profit to address and create and develop something and address an urgent social need that they have as well. So that's the product pledge. We then have the profit pledge, and we call this the profit pledge, but really what we're talking about here is giving cash away to charities. So giving money to charities doesn't have to be profit. Some people, some companies might give a percentage of profit, a percentage of revenue. It might be $1 or a few cents on top of every sale. It might be that you're fundraising within the company, or particularly some companies just choose to match whatever their employees are doing. So you might have a few employees very passionate about what they want to do, and you get behind their fundraising activities, or just match any donations that they're making to charity. And so, yes, as I said, it doesn't have to be 1% of profit. This is really about thinking, yes, volunteering is important, product's important, but of course, charities, money is the lifeblood of powering what they do as well. And often people will support those charities that they love through a mixture of the volunteering, the product, and then also some cash donations as well. And then the fourth pledge, which is uh, incredibly powerful, although can be slightly more complicated, but is incredibly powerful, is making an equity donation. So what we see with that is founders or companies often do this at two times, either very early on in their company life cycle, where they may choose to set aside or make a pledge to set aside some equity to set up a foundation. And we saw that, for example, with Atlassian, where Scott and Mike set aside 1% of their founder shares and donated them to set up the Atlassian Foundation back, I think, in 2011, before Atlassian listed. It wasn't worth anything back then, or very little. You know, it was quite an easy decision to put 1% of equity into this foundation. But then fast forward a few years, Atlassian listed, and it went from sort of not being worth all that much to being worth millions of dollars, and has gone on to fund their social impact work. And they give, you know, significant amount of grants and money away to charities alongside their volunteering and product and other forms of the pledge. And the other time we see companies doing it is just before they list. Often there'll be a shareholder agreement. We've seen this very powerfully done in the US, where now over $3 billion of philanthropic commitments have been unleashed through equity commitments, where companies have agreed, like before they list, to set aside that 1% of equity and issue it to a charity. And the power of that is quite incredible. So two different ways of doing it. One's company issuing equity. The other is a founder simply making a decision to donate some of their own equity. That's the simpler way of doing it, because you're not sort of diluting any of your other shareholders in the process. But it can also be something, particularly with a purpose-led company, that you find other shareholders are sometimes very willing to lean into as well. So if anyone's interested in equity pledging, it's, you know, equity is a complex area, but very happy to catch up with people one-on-one if anyone wants to reach out and explore the different ways of doing that, either with legal pledges or sort of intentional pledges, and what that actually looks like in practice. So here in Australia, as sort of Mick said, we've been ramping up quite a bit over the last 6 months or so. Alice and Gisela are also on the call with me here today. And what I'd encourage you to do is, if you would like to find out more about pledge and be part of the community, is take the pledge. It's quite simple to do. It's not legally binding. It's not sort of absolutely committing you to anything. But really what the pledge does is a way of quite simply indicating your intention that you're going to use your assets as a force for good. There's a QR code there on the screen, or just jump on the website, pledge1%.org, take the pledge, and you can sign your company up today. And then when you're signed up, that will put you sort of in touch with Pledge 1%, so we can reach out to you. You'll become part of our online community. There's a whole load of onboarding sort of journeys that you can access that tell you different and easy ways to activate the different aspects of your pledge, or other things like how to track social impact, or how to choose a charity. All different things we can get you access to there. But importantly, it also gives you access to the community, and would invite you to any events that we're running. A few of them are coming up in the next few weeks. We've got next week a virtual event about how to unlock your time pledge and how to do volunteering programs. And that will be an opportunity, quite interactive, to meet with other members who are looking at ways to activate their volunteering. We'll be at the Global Impact Summit in Sydney in August, the 5th and 6th of August, and we'll be doing a few gatherings there. I'm also facilitating a panel with some of our sort of leading members, which are who have we got there? We've got Canva, Atlassian, AirTrunk, and Employment Hero. Will be talking about the different ways that they use their pledge to support charities, beyond money alone, but also money. And we'll also be doing a member meetup of some sort at the Spark Festival in September. Just working out the details of that now. But if you jump online and take the pledge, we'll be very happy to send that information out to you, or just email us on the members' email address there, members at pledge1%.org, and very happy for us to just jump on a quick call and talk you through any details of the pledge. There we go. That's
Fantastic.
us in a nutshell.
Yeah, more than in a nutshell. That's great. Um, People, please, in the audience here, please put any questions you might have for the team into the chat, or you can raise your hand if you have a question. That's up to you. Um, One from me to start, as people are thinking and putting their notes in. Can you tell me about you? You said to sign up and pledge, and I think there is a bit of a feeling, and I certainly felt the same. I wanted to take it really seriously and to commit to it, but it is the pledge is just the first step. And as you said, there is lots of different ways to participate and lots of different ways that'll obviously grow as your company grows. But can you, from someone in the team, can you tell me what's a typical journey from um, of a company in terms of you make the pledge, well, like what does the first 12 months look like in terms of really engaging well?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I would say largely on the stage that you're at with your company as well, where you're thinking. It's like part of the whole ethos of Pledge 1% is we're trying to encourage companies to think about, I mean, impact or corporate philanthropy, if you like, at the beginning of their journey, not as something that's tacked on at the end when you're sort of have got access to resources and really saying, how do you embed this early and from day one? So the number one thing and the benefit of taking the pledge is a tool to talk to staff around. So Alice and I were on a call with um, a company the other day that's a few series of funding rounds in, but they're just at a point staff of about 30 people where they're thinking, we think we can bring the team together in different ways. And
Mm.
so they realize they've already been doing a fair bit of this stuff, volunteering and some product donations and that sort of thing. But signing the pledge was a great way for them to bring their team together to discuss about what they might want to do. Sort of take the badge, take the logo, and really embed it in the way that they communicate to their investors and their staff as they start ramping up their different aspects of the pledge.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to know, and I think it's really key to know that it is quite individual. Each company has their own approach, and that's certainly the experience we've seen with the other climate tech companies in Climate Salad who have become members. Everyone, it should be an expression of your values and also what your people would like to do in terms of contributing. I guess the other thing is, as we mentioned, that climate tech companies are already doing fairly good work for the planet, but there is a kind of an increased expectation that climate tech companies like won't do harm in other areas. And in fact, a lot of people who want to work for those companies actually are motivated by multiple positive areas of purpose in the world. And this, I think, that's one of the great things about Pledge 1% is that you can be doing a climate tech company as your base, but you might also do work with homeless or work with in education or health or other areas. Can you talk a bit about that? Is there any good examples of companies who have kind of leaned into certain in certain directions that might particularly be good stories?
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies. There's different ways of approaching it. And I think some of it also depends where the company is based. So if a company's got a strong presence where you've got one office in a particular area, sometimes they'll focus on doing some place-based stuff in that area that they're operating. You know,
Yeah,
working with local charities in the local area so that they're
yeah,
building their social license to operate in that place that they're based. Others, because we're in tech, have very remote staff. So it's about finding ways to expand that impact. One great tech example, for example, is this worked really well with remote staff, where I was talking to some companies that are doing it the other day, is with an organization called Citizens of the Great Barrier Reef. So they are using a mix of AI and human intervention to really map reefs around the whole world, where they've got a whole load of technologies that take photographs of the reef to try and work out the areas where you can nurture reefs to sort of stop the destruction of coral reefs around the world. But the images that are looked at by AI also need to have a human interface, and their biggest people that do that are organizations like Atlassian and Disney worldwide, where they've got teams of people working remotely, but they can come on and spend a few hours helping to sift through and sort the data. And it's helping to protect and grow. reefs around the world. So that's sort of one extreme of online sort of volunteering. And then the other end of it would be a group of people going down to, say, to clean up Australia and clean up a beach, and gather, rubbish from the beach and that sort of thing. Or it could be online mentoring with young people, or working with Oz Harvest to to help feed the homeless. So many different ways of
Yeah, that's
approaching.
great. I think that the local versus global is really interesting, and I think there is a big tension in Australia in terms of building a company and being like especially climate tech companies are often hardware based, so they might be hyper local, and there's a temptation to think really globally and then lose your connection with local. And I think that's the Pledge 1% is a great way to sort of maintain that connection or to strengthen it. But and I was going to ask as well in terms of the remote, like it is, there is some things harder about being remote, but there also I think, yeah, having something that connects everybody no matter where you are in the world would be really really interesting. Um, yeah, that is that's great. And one thing I think you really touched on nicely was starting early, even though you might think that. I think there's a temptation to think, well, I don't have much to give, and we're really working our butts off just to survive, and we don't have product money or anything. But a lot of companies give away free trials for companies anyway, and it's a great way to sort of say, look, we're going to start counting this and sort of thinking about it in that way. And as we grow, it'll expand. I think it's a great story to tell about would
That's
Canva.
right. It's sort of moving from being, you're sort of accidentally doing this stuff to being intentional about it and
Yeah,
trying to
great.
find ways to simply track it, even if, a small company early on, that might just be on a spreadsheet. But it's
Yeah,
about capturing that and saying, hey, we're kind of doing all this other stuff that's really important, and be proud about it and celebrate it.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's also it's giving a framework to go and do that, right? So it's actually you do get to count it, you do get to measure it, and it kind of gives you a bit of a validation to brag about it a little bit, to say, hey, I like a lot of other companies, that 19,000 others, I've pledged and I'm doing good work here, and that's really positive. And one thing to extend as well is that we've seen a number of companies include pledge 1% in their data rooms. And for a lot of impact investors and certainly family offices and definitely government, they actually look at it as a big positive to say that this is not a selfish, purely commercial organization. It's an organization that's connecting in and has that. I think because there's the other companies that have gone before it, you establish that you're connecting in on. You want to be on a similar path to that growth and purpose. So I think that's really exciting as well. So
I can see a
um,
question in the
yeah.
chat there as well from Julian, which is, can individual founders or shareholders join the pledge, for example, for equity, even if other shareholders don't? Yes, Julian, I think that's particularly relevant in the equity space. So setting aside equity for social good, there are different ways of doing it, but particularly as a company progresses and you get more and more complex shareholders on your cap table, one of the easiest ways to set aside equity can be for the founder themselves to say, hey, I'm happy to commit some of my equity to the foundation. And certainly that's what Scott and Mike did with Atlassian. With Cam, I mean, this is the bigger end of town, obviously, but with Canva, Mel and Cliff have committed 90% of their wealth to philanthropy, their personal wealth. And that means that the Canva Foundation currently has 30% of Canva equity is in the Canva Foundation, but that's due to it being Mel and Cliff's sort of founder equity that's in there. And in additionally, there's some corporate equity that's been issued, I believe. So it can be either or a mix. But yeah, absolutely. One of the ways we have a pledge, a sort of we call it a deed of gift, which is a legally binding pledge, even that a founder can sign early on in the company to say, when I have a liquidity event, then a percentage of that liquidity will go to fund my foundation. So you don't even actually have to set it aside on day one. You can be making a legal pledge to be doing that at a future time when your success, when your success is realized.
Excellent. And Julian, you can obviously lord it over your other shareholders, how brilliant you are for making that pledge early and contributing so much later on. And yeah, you'll be the hero, they'll be the villains. I think that's pretty obvious and clear. Maybe a question for Alice as well. Alice, what's the onboarding process like? How do they how does everyone step through? Is it lots of forms? Is it lots of bank details and know my customer and anti-money laundering? Can you just tell a bit about the onboarding process?
The onboarding process is super easy, actually. It's literally the links are, Gisella's put the links in the chat. It's as simple as going to the website and clicking on the Pledge Now button. There are probably 10 questions to answer. We do a background verification once that information comes through, just to check that you are actually a business and that hopefully you're not money laundering, etc. We do those background checks. And then the onboarding, you will receive a series of emails that introduce you to Pledge, give you access to things like our online community portal, which is where you can find our learning resources around how do we do these things, and also access to our LinkedIn groups. You'll get a quarterly newsletters and also a whole bunch of storytelling around other members and the journeys they're on and what they're doing. So it's really quick, it's really simple, and because we're not an organisation with a sort of professional accreditation, really this is a pledge of intent. It's fairly light touch.
Fantastic. Um, you mentioned the events there as well, and maybe this is
Mm-hmm.
for Gisela or one of you. Are those events like are they pitchy and sales events? Is someone going to come there and feel a bit intimidated because they don't already donate millions? Like, are they? Yeah, can you give us a bit of a flavor? I know there's a really good range, but
Yeah, they're
yes,
varied. Yeah, they're varied like our members. Sort of the whole point about the pledge framework is it's flexible and you utilize it as is relevant for where you're at as a company. And our members are really varied as well. We have lots of small startups. We've spoken a bit about Canva and Atlassian today. Obviously, they're our sort of marquee members, but actually, the majority of our members, over 95% of our members, are small startup organizations. So you're more likely to actually feel, sort of a sense of commonality with the other folks in the room than you will be worrying about feeling left out. The events are sort of a mixture of networking and a mixture of connection. That's what our members are saying they're looking for. They do generally have a little bit of an educational element to them. We'll talk about something impact related, but we try to keep it fairly light touch and index on that, learning peer to peer, and allowing people the time to have conversations and just human chats around. I'm thinking about doing this thing called volunteering. Have you got any tips? I can see that you're doing it already. So that's it. Gisela, Antonia, would you like to add anything around events?
No, that was a great summary. I just encourage people to sign up and come along. We're a
yeah.
friendly bunch, and I think absolutely what Alice says is that people love learning from each other and people that just how they started, how they've enacted different parts of the pledge, charities that they've worked with that they love, and different ways that they've approached it.
Some of the other perks that I've really appreciated, uh, the things like there were some discounts on events like Sunrise. There's an impact report. There are really some of the webinars are obviously all around the world, so some of the time zones can be a little bit tough. But it's great to have a team now in time zone. But I think that's to your point there, Antonia. It's something you can sign up to and join without feeling like you're making a massive commitment and you'll get the emails, you'll get the information, grab what's valuable to you, and I think over time you can start building up the experience and momentum around being the partner, and then I think it kind of as you grow again, your I think your work with Pledge 1% can grow as well. So yeah, definitely encourage that. So it feels like it should be something that I think you should take it seriously and really want to do it, but it is a very easy start and worth jumping in. It's a really different network. Like Climate Salad is all Australia, all climate tech, and that can be very myopic at times. But I think that diversity in Pledge 1% is one of its real big strengths.
And we do try as well, I should say, to go where people are already gathering. So you will often find us at, as you mentioned, things like Sunrise, South Star. Global Impact Summit that's coming up, climate tech event, um,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. If you see us wandering around in our Pledge 1% t-shirts, come and hit us up and have a chat. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Get everyone more questions in the chat, please. Please put them in. We know again we reached out to a couple of companies. I know Sam from Conry Tech is a member, and I think we're probably probably heading up towards 10 now, and hopefully after this webinar we get that out further. Just to explain the background to everyone, one of the reasons why we're here is because we actually met up at a Spark Fest event, and I bragged that I was going to try to get 100 climate tech companies within the year. So this is mainly Alice Gazella and Antonia actually really pushing me and holding me accountable to this. So we need you all to really sign up, otherwise I'm not gonna hit my pledge of 1%. But it's considering we've got 800 companies, one of the really interesting things was again this feeling of like I'm doing climate, I'm already giving so much. But yeah, I just want to reiterate again that this is a different kind of contribution, and it's actually really really positive just to be associated and a part of it, and yeah, all those other good events, you're just participating in the ecosystem in a really really strong way. And again, climate salad is just another great example of that. So I want to make sure I thank you all for your support and participation in this because yeah, I think it's all hard work what everybody's doing here, but I think this is a really worthwhile addition. More questions in from the team. Raise your hands, put your questions in as well. Are there any in terms of actually donations? Some of the companies have philanthropy and there's not-for-profit work. Like, is there any good or bad overlap that people should think about with kind of non-for-profits or foundations?
In what way do you mean? Some of them are non-for-profits themselves, or?
Yeah, some of them actually are, or they might be getting money from foundations and who like donate, like provide grants and other things. Like, is that because there's a really good, you're building a great business and you can give part of that business as a contribution out. But again, climate tech is one of those parts which really sort of sits at the cusp of good work. But we're not quite like those fintech companies. So yeah, is there any other kind of those organizations which are involved or things that people should be aware of or
Yeah, I mean, I
might
think
not
it's
be?
health tech as well and education and all sorts actually. But I
Yeah,
think probably going back to that thing I said earlier, yeah, often you will be, yeah, you might be receiving grants yourself from different organizations. But I think the thing that I find overwhelmingly is that, well, by and large, in the founder and startup communities, that we found people are attracted to it generally because they want to make a difference, even if that's not in quite as direct a way as climate tech. So most people are coming into startups because they're passionate about making a difference in the world. It's not all about money, or you'd probably be going down a more career path if you wanted a guaranteed outcome of
yeah,
huge financial wealth. So I think the beautiful thing about a Pledge 1% beyond the company is that way of acknowledging and embracing the fact that your employees are actually generally a purpose-driven, socially impactful bunch anyway, which
yeah,
might extend beyond just their day-to-day of what they're doing in their job kind of thing.
yeah, great. And if when all these wonderful companies sign up and join, what can they do to tell the world that they're a Pledge 1%? Is it okay to add a logo to the
Mm,
to their website, or do people do things on
absolutely,
LinkedIn, make an
absolutely.
announcement, or
When you get, that's one of the part of the, actually, we didn't mention that as part of the onboarding, that when you sign up and sign the pledge, part of the onboarding journey is you will get access to a template press release you can use, the logo, different ways that you can use the Pledge 1% brand alongside your own branding to talk about what you do. Many people put it on their website as an indication of, an additional layer of their social purpose.
oh, fantastic. That's great. That's a really, really good way to contribute. Um, and climate technology, it's a new industry compared to a lot of them. I know we're trying to grow in that area. Is there any sense in terms of the giving? Do you have a sense that in terms of the allocation of the 1% that all the other companies give, that some of it goes towards climate positive projects? I mean, Clean Up Australia Day is a really good example. That's actually getting your hands on and getting your hands dirty with some really good work. But yeah, it was just made me really think about it then in terms of what are the other companies doing things that are climate positive as well?
Yeah, I don't have the actual statistics on that. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
any, Alice, but it's really yeah, I mean, I think naturally if you're in the climate space, there's a natural bias towards environmental impact
yeah,
broadly. But I think in the tech space as well, on the other side, there's a lot of people in the non-tech companies that are very passionate about the environment and climate as well. So we see um, volunteering and social impact programs in other types of companies that give them an opportunity to do something in the climate space beyond their mandated reporting and what it might be. So it works both ways.
oh, fantastic. And what about the rest of the team? Is this a set and forget kind of thing, or is it one person in a company that normally does this? I think you mentioned to the company. Julian asked if the individuals can join, but if the
Yeah.
companies can join, does this spread out beyond the individual?
Yeah, I mean, it evolves, I think. So often, many people, when they sign up, as Alice said, over 90% of our members at least are very small startups when they sign up. So there often are only two people, two co-founders who might be signing up at the beginning. Um, and that evolves as the company does. So you'll often find that, first of all, it's the founder or the CEO who's driving the social impact efforts. The next stage might be that um, a, a member of the team, like the chief of staff or head of strategy, or whoever it might be, someone who's very passionate puts their hand up to do a bit more. Sometimes it might be the EA, the administrator who's organizing volunteering activities and other things. So
Yeah,
that'll be the next step. And then as they evolve, people will often employ a social impact lead that drives these programs, that works out volunteering programs, runs their foundation. And so it grows and expands as the company's impact and scale does, really.
excellent. Well, I think that's plenty to go on, and we've got a bit of work to do to get to the 100. So I've got to keep pushing. For any of the companies that are curious and maybe want to know more, I mean, I do suggest that it is a very easy first step just to get on board, and I think there's really quick value you get out of being a part of this incredible network. But if they have questions and thoughts, where's the best place to go?
Is to jump on and take the pledge, which will
Yeah.
immediately put you in contact with us, or email the members email, which is members@pledge1%.org. I'll just it's just added it into the chat there, but it's
Good.
also on the website. So if you do the members,
Perfect.
that will come straight through to Alice. It sounds like a random email, but Alice will respond.
And I can attest to Alice's absolute incredible responsiveness. So it's been great to work with the team so
Thanks,
far, and
Mick.
looking forward to another great year. We do have we did commit to doing our end of year awards again this year, so we'd love to have you there again, and our annual industry report. So yeah, it's just wonderful to see the Pledge 1% team doing so much work across Australia. So a huge thank you to you, all three of you, and your work and your support of climate technology. We'll get this out to all our founders and get more of them signed up, and get more of that contribution happening. Thanks so much for sharing today, and again, thank you for your contribution to the community.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Mick.
Mick. Cheers.
Cheers, team. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.